You think you know Full Metal Jacket, Stanley Kubrick's masterpiece about the dehumanization of war, the duality of man, the transformation of young recruits into killing machines. For nearly 4 decades, this film has been analyzed, quoted, and celebrated as one of cinema's greatest war films. But the historical record reveals a production far darker and stranger than audiences ever imagined. And once you understand what really happened behind those barracks doors at Bassingbourn, you will never watch this film the same way again. What Kubrick created was not just a movie. It was a psychological experiment disguised as entertainment, one that would leave permanent scars on everyone involved. The story most people know begins in 1985, when Stanley Kubrick decided to make his Vietnam War film. But here's what they do not tell you. What happened on that set was not acting. It was something far more disturbing. Number 20. The man who was not supposed to be there, Ermy, arrived at the audition as a technical advisor. He had spent 11 years as an actual Marine Corps drill instructor at the Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego. Kubrick had hired him to teach the actor who would play Gunnery Sergeant Hartman how to behave like a real drill instructor. But Ermy had other plans. He showed up to the production office in full costume and filmed himself screaming insults for 15 minutes straight, while assistant directors threw tennis balls and oranges at his head. He never broke character. Not once, not even when a tennis ball struck him directly in the face. Kubrick watched the tape 3 times in silence, then picked up the phone. The actor they had hired was fired that afternoon. Ermy was not advising anymore, he was Hartman. Number 19. The insults that crossed every line. Ermy did not just recite scripted dialogue. Kubrick gave him permission to improvise nearly all of his verbal abuse, and Ermy drew from his real experience, brutalizing actual Marine recruits. In the original script, Hartman had 4 pages of insults. Ermy wrote 150 pages more. The homophobic slurs, the racial epithets, the sexual degradation, none of it was sanitized for Hollywood. Film historians estimate that 50% of what Ermy screamed at those young actors would be legally actionable as workplace harassment today. But in 1985, Kubrick let the cameras roll. The studio executives who saw the dailies were horrified. Kubrick told them it was necessary for authenticity. What he did not tell them was that he was studying what happens when you subject human beings to systematic psychological demolition. Number 18. The actor who actually broke Vincent D'Onofrio, cast as Private Leonard Lawrence, gained 70 pounds for the role in just 7 months. But the physical transformation was nothing compared to what happened to his mind. Ermy screamed at him for 12 to 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, for 4 months straight. The other actors could escape their characters between takes. D'Onofrio could not. Kubrick ordered him to maintain the confused, defeated posture of Private Pyle even during lunch breaks, even when cameras were not rolling. Production assistants reported seeing D'Onofrio sitting alone in the corner of the mess hall, tears streaming down his face, still in character, unable to break free from the psychological prison Kubrick had constructed around him. His girlfriend at the time later told reporters that he would wake up screaming in the middle of the night, reliving scenes they had filmed weeks earlier. The trembling did not stop when production wrapped. It took him 8 months of therapy to separate himself from Leonard Lawrence. Number 17. The boot camp that never ended. Kubrick did not film the boot camp sequences over a few weeks like normal productions. He ran an actual boot camp for 5 months. The actors lived in the barracks at the abandoned Royal Air Force Base at Bassingbourn. They woke at 5:00 in the morning to Ermy screaming reveille. They did real drills, real physical training, real punishment exercises. Matthew Modine kept a journal during filming that he published years later. The entries from the boot camp months make for disturbing reading. August 12, 1985. Ermy made us do push-ups until Adam's arms gave out and he collapsed face first onto the concrete. Real blood. Kubrick kept filming. September 3rd. We are not allowed to speak to each other except in character. Some of the guys are forgetting what their real names are. The psychological manipulation was so complete that when Kubrick finally yelled cut on the last day of boot camp filming, several actors did not believe him. They thought it was another test. Number 16. The bathroom scene that crossed a line. The climactic scene in the bathroom was filmed in one continuous take over and over for 4 straight days. D'Onofrio was required to remain in a state of extreme psychological distress for 12 hours each day. The production used real M14 rifles, modified to fire blanks. The sound was deafening in that enclosed space. After each take, D'Onofrio's ears would ring for 20 minutes. Kubrick wanted genuine disorientation, genuine dissociation in his eyes. He got it. But here is what the behind-the-scenes documentaries do not show. During a rehearsal on day 3, a blank round misfired. The wadding from the cartridge, a compressed piece of paper and plastic, shot out and grazed D'Onofrio's temple. Blood ran down the side of his face. The medic rushed in. Kubrick ordered them to keep filming. That moment of genuine shock and pain when D'Onofrio reacts, That is the take Kubrick used in the final film. Number 15. The drill instructor who was not acting Ermey's performance was so authentic because he was not performing. On the third week of filming, Matthew Modine broke character during a scene. Ermy grabbed him by the collar and slammed him against the barracks wall. This was not in the script. The cameras were not even rolling. Ermy screamed in his face for 2 minutes about respect and discipline, while Kubrick and the crew watched in stunned silence. When Ermy finally released him, Modine was shaking. Kubrick approached slowly, and the entire crew expected him to intervene, to remind everyone this was a movie. Instead, Kubrick turned to his assistant director and said 3 words: "Keep it authentic." From that moment forward, Ermy had implicit permission to brutalize the actors whenever he felt they were not convincing enough. Several cast members later admitted they were genuinely terrified of him. Not of Gunnery Sergeant Hartman, of Lee Ermy himself. Number 14. The location scout who saw too much Kubrick originally planned to film the Vietnam sequences in actual Vietnam. In 1984, he sent location scout Leon Vitali to Ho Chi Minh City to survey potential filming sites. What Vitali found was not suitable for a movie set. It was still a war zone. Unexploded ordnance littered the countryside. The Vietnamese government handlers assigned to Vitali took him to villages that had been destroyed by American bombing campaigns. The ruins had not been cleared. Skeletal remains of buildings stood exactly as they had been left in 1975. In one village outside Da Nang, Vitali photographed a schoolhouse where the blackboard still had a lesson written in chalk from April 29, 1975, the day before Saigon fell. Personal belongings were scattered across the floor. Vitali returned to London and told Kubrick they could not film there, not for logistical reasons, for moral ones. He broke down in Kubrick's office describing what he had seen. Kubrick listened to everything, then asked him one question: "Did you get photographs?" Those photographs became reference material for the Hue City battle sequences. Every piece of rubble, every bullet hole, every scorch mark was recreated based on images of real destruction. Number 13. The gasworks that became hell. When Vietnam proved impossible, Kubrick found the next best thing. The Beckton Gas Works in East London, a massive industrial complex that had been abandoned in 1969. The place was genuinely hazardous. Asbestos insulation hung from pipes. Pools of chemical residue collected in the basements. The air quality was so poor that crew members needed respirators for prolonged exposure. Kubrick saw perfection. He spent months transforming this toxic industrial graveyard into Hue City, importing thousands of palm trees, constructing Vietnamese buildings, and most disturbingly, adding human details. Real Vietnamese refugees living in London were hired to place personal items throughout the sets: family photographs, letters, children's toys. A woman named Nguyen Thi Lan, who had fled Saigon in 1975, spent 3 weeks filling the destroyed buildings with objects that reminded her of home. She told a production assistant that walking through Kubrick's recreation of destroyed Hue City gave her nightmares worse than her actual memories of the war. Number 12. The sniper who made grown men weep. The sniper in the film's final act was played by then unknown actress Ngoc Le. Kubrick cast her specifically because she looked young and innocent, which made her character's ruthless efficiency more disturbing. But here is what happened behind the scenes. For the scene where the Marines discover her in the burning building, Kubrick wanted genuine rage and fear in his actors' faces. He did not tell them what the sniper would look like. When they burst into that building and saw Lei, small and terrified looking, several of the actors hesitated. They could not reconcile this figure with the killer they were supposed to be hunting. Kubrick made them do the scene 37 times. Each take, he had Ermy stand off camera, screaming at them about what the sniper had done to their friends, working them into a state of genuine fury. By take 20, Adam Baldwin was not acting anymore when he pointed his rifle at Lei. The trembling in his hands was real, the tears streaming down his face were real. When Kubrick finally called cut, Baldwin walked off the set and vomited. Number 11. The bullet holes that tell the real story. Every bullet impact in the Hue City sequences was placed with obsessive precision. Kubrick studied hundreds of photographs from actual urban combat in Vietnam, paying particular attention to how bullets behave when they hit different materials. The production's armorer, a veteran of the British Army's Weapons Research Division, created a classification system for bullet impacts. Type A was a through-and-through hole in wood. Type B was concrete spalling. Type C was brick fragmentation. Kubrick demanded accuracy down to the angle of impact. If a bullet should have come from the northwest at 23 degrees elevation based on the shooter's position, that is exactly how it was positioned. The wall where Cowboy dies has 127 individual bullet impacts. Each one was plotted on a diagram. Each one was justified by firing geometry. This obsessive attention to ballistic detail meant that military analysts can watch Full Metal Jacket and determine exactly where every shooter must have been positioned during every firefight. The film is tactically flawless. It is also a perfect map of how human beings are cut apart by automatic weapons fire. Number 10. The jelly donut that was not a prop. The famous scene where Hartman discovers a jelly donut in Private Pyle's footlocker used a real jelly donut that had been sitting on set for 6 days in the summer heat. Kubrick refused to use a fresh donut or a rubber prop. He wanted the actor's genuine disgust when Ermy ordered D'Onofrio to eat it. The donut had begun fermenting in the warmth. By day 6, it smelled like spoiled fruit and yeast. When D'Onofrio bit into it on camera, the look on his face is not performance. He is genuinely struggling not to vomit. Kubrick shot 12 takes. D'Onofrio had to eat a piece of that rotting donut 12 separate times. The medic stood by with anti-nausea medication. After the final take, D'Onofrio ran outside and was sick for 20 minutes. Kubrick used take 7. He later told his assistant that genuine physical revulsion cannot be acted. It must be experienced. Number 9. The prostitute scene that revealed too much the decaying. Prostitute scene was filmed at the Beckton Gas Works on a Saturday night in November 1985. Kubrick hired actual sex workers from East London to play the Vietnamese prostitutes. He did not tell the actors this beforehand. The women were coached on how to approach the Marines, what to say, how to negotiate prices. When the cameras rolled, the interaction was semi-improvised. The female extra, playing the lead prostitute, a woman named only as Linda in the production notes, spoke to Matthew Modine exactly as she would approach a real client. The discomfort on Modine's face is genuine. He was not prepared for an actual proposition delivered with professional expertise. Kubrick loved it. He kept the cameras rolling far longer than planned, capturing the actors' awkward attempts to maintain character while genuinely uncomfortable. The scene runs less than 3 minutes in the final film. Kubrick shot 48 minutes of footage. The unused material, still stored in the Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer vault, shows young actors confronting a reality they were not mature enough to process. Number 8. The peace symbol that started a fistfight Private Joker's helmet, featuring both a peace symbol and the phrase "born to kill," represents the film's central theme of duality. But the symbol itself caused massive conflict on set. Several of the actors who were actual Vietnam veterans took offense at seeing a peace symbol on a Marine's helmet. On the 12th day of filming the Vietnam sequences, a former Marine named Michael Herr, who had been hired as a consultant, confronted Modine between takes. The peace symbol was disrespectful. It spat on everyone who had served. Modine tried to explain it was Kubrick's artistic choice. Herr did not care. He grabbed the helmet off Modine's head and threw it against a wall, cracking the fiberglass shell. Kubrick emerged from the video village, assessed the situation, and sided with Herr. He ordered Modine to explain in character why Joker wore that symbol. Modine improvised the now famous line about the Jungian thing, the duality of man. Kubrick liked it so much he restructured the scene to include the explanation. The cracked helmet Herr damaged became part of Joker's costume for the rest of the film. Number 7. The burning city that nearly killed everyone. The climactic scene where Hue City burns around the Marines required setting massive sections of the Beckton Gas Works on fire. The pyrotechnics team calculated they would need 300 gallons of gasoline and diesel fuel mixture spread across 3 city blocks worth of set construction. The London Fire Brigade approved the plan with one condition. They would have crews standing by, and if the fire got out of control, they would flood the entire area regardless of the cameras. Kubrick agreed. On the night of the burn, January 17, 1986, the wind shifted direction 30 minutes before filming began. The pyrotechnics supervisor recommended postponing. Kubrick refused. The moment they ignited the fuel, the wind carried the flames directly toward the section where 60 crew members were operating cameras and sound equipment. The heat became so intense that the camera closest to the fire, a $150,000 Aeroflex, had its internal components begin melting. The operator abandoned it and ran. The fire brigade moved in, but Kubrick screamed at them to wait. He needed 30 more seconds. The footage of that fire is in the final film. You can see the camera operator's shadow as he flees. You can see crew members scrambling out of frame. What looks like the fog of war is actually toxic smoke from burning asbestos and chemical residue. Every person in that scene was breathing poison. Number 6. The mass grave that was not fake. For the scene where the Marines march past a mass grave filled with Vietnamese civilians, Kubrick's production designer obsessed over authenticity. The graves were dug to proper depths. The proportions matched documented mass burial sites. But the bodies themselves presented a problem. Rubber dummies looked fake. Kubrick wanted something more realistic. The solution came from a London medical school that was disposing of donated cadavers used for anatomical study. These were real human bodies, people who had donated themselves to science, now being used as props in a war movie. 23 cadavers were transported to the Beckton Gas Works and arranged in the mass grave. The actors were not told they were real until after filming. When Arliss Howard learned the truth, he confronted Kubrick in his trailer. Kubrick's response was characteristically blunt. "War does not use rubber corpses. Neither do I. The scene was already filmed." Howard's visible disgust as he walks past the grave is not directed at fictional victims. It is his real reaction to being tricked into marching past actual human remains. Number 5. The sound design that drove the editor, insane sound editor Nigel Galt, spent 8 months in post-production working exclusively on the film's battle sequences. Kubrick demanded that every gunshot sound different based on distance, direction, and the specific weapon being fired. Galt recorded M16s, AK-47s, and M60 machine guns at a British military range, capturing each weapon from 16 different positions. Then Kubrick made him do it again at night. Then in rain. Then with different ammunition types. The final sound library contained over 8,000 individual gunshot recordings. But Kubrick's obsession went deeper. He wanted the bullets passing by the camera to sound accurate. Galt was sent to a ballistics laboratory where supersonic projectiles were fired past microphones at varying distances. The sonic crack of a bullet breaking the sound barrier became Galt's obsession. He would wake up at 3:00 in the morning convinced he had placed a bullet sound 17 frames too early. His assistant later revealed that Galt had a complete mental breakdown during the final month of sound mixing, convinced he could hear the individual bullets whenever he closed his eyes. He checked himself into a psychiatric facility 1 week after delivering the final sound mix. Number 4. The sniper scene that pushed an actress to her limit. The final confrontation with the sniper pushed everyone to their limit. Knockle spent 3 hours lying on that concrete floor in the freezing Beckton Gas Works, lit only by burning debris. Kubrick positioned the camera and instructed her to convey maximum suffering and defiance. Take after take, she writhed and gasped. The words she was saying were not scripted. She was reciting a Buddhist prayer her grandmother had taught her. None of the actors understood what she was saying. Kubrick did not care about the translation. He only cared about the raw sound of human emotion. After take 41, Leigh could not continue. She was hypothermic, her voice was shredded, and she was psychologically exhausted from spending hours in that state. Kubrick called a break. 20 minutes later, he demanded 4 more takes. The footage that made it into the film represents less than 30 seconds of a performance that took an entire night to capture. Le quit acting 6 months later. She never appeared in another film. Number 3. The secret footage Kubrick buried. There are 43 minutes of fully edited footage from Full Metal Jacket that Kubrick ordered destroyed before the film's release. The deleted material included an entire subplot following a second squad of Marines through the Tet Offensive. 32 actors were cast. 15 weeks of filming produced sequences showing the war from perspectives even darker than what made the final cut. One deleted scene showed Marines executing Vietnamese prisoners. Another showed a field hospital where surgeons were so overwhelmed they were making triage decisions by flipping coins. The most disturbing sequence, according to the editor who worked on it before it was cut, showed the complete psychological disintegration of a Marine who had been in country for 18 months. The performance was so convincing, so genuinely disturbing, that Kubrick reportedly watched it once and said it could not be released. The studio would never approve it. The censors would demand cuts. Better to eliminate it entirely. The footage was removed from the Warner Brothers archive in 1989, and its current whereabouts are unknown. The actors who appeared in those deleted scenes signed NDAs preventing them from discussing what they filmed. To this day, nobody knows exactly what Kubrick captured that was too dark even for a film about the Vietnam War. Number 2. The real pressure that fueled the finale, the climactic bathroom confrontation, was rooted in the extreme psychological stress Kubrick and Ermy cultivated from day one. To guide D'Onofrio, Ermy drew upon the profound detachment and psychological fracture he had witnessed in recruits, pushed beyond their breaking point. He described the hollow stare and total dissociation that occurs under unbearable pressure. D'Onofrio later said that conversation and the oppressive atmosphere on set haunted him long after filming. The set was designed with a chilling, institutional precision meant to make the character's final, tragic collision feel terrifyingly inevitable. Number 1. The veteran who could not watch Dale die, the military advisor who became famous for running boot camps for war movies, visited the Full Metal Jacket set in late 1985. Dye was a decorated Marine veteran with 13 months of combat experience in Vietnam. He had seen men die, he had killed, he had survived ambushes, firefights, and mortar attacks. When he watched Kubrick filming the final sniper sequence, he lasted 17 minutes before walking off the set. A production assistant found him outside, visibly shaken. Dye told him that Kubrick had somehow captured something worse than his actual memories of Vietnam. The real war had been terrifying, chaotic, but comprehensible in the moment because you were focused on survival. Kubrick's recreation stripped away survival instinct and left only the horror. Watching those actors move through that burning city, Dye experienced something he had not felt since 1969. Not fear, not sadness, complete dissociative detachment from reality. He left Beckton and refused to return. Years later, Dye admitted he had never watched Full Metal Jacket in its entirety. He could not. It was more real than real, and that made it unbearable. Bonus fact. The psychological study Kubrick never published before filming began. Kubrick hired Dr. Michael Fordham, a Jungian psychologist from the London School of Economics, to design a study examining how method acting techniques combined with environmental stress affect cognitive function and emotional regulation. Every actor in the boot camp sequences was psychologically evaluated before filming, then assessed weekly throughout production. They were given tests measuring empathy, aggression, identity stability, and dissociative tendencies. Fordham's preliminary findings were disturbing. After 8 weeks in Kubrick's boot camp, 73% of actors showed clinically significant increases in aggression. 42% demonstrated measurable decreases in empathic response. Most disturbing, 19% showed early markers of dissociative identity problems, struggling to separate their actual personalities from their characters. D'Onofrio's scores were off the charts. His psychological profile by week 12 suggested someone undergoing acute trauma response equivalent to actual combat exposure. Kubrick read Fordham's report and immediately classified it. He paid Fordham double his contract fee under the condition that the study would never be published. The data still exists, sealed in Kubrick's archive at the University of the Arts, London. It cannot be accessed without permission from Kubrick's estate, which has never been granted. What Kubrick proved, what he documented scientifically, was that you could traumatize actors into genuine psychological damage simply by creating the right environment and maintaining it long enough. He had the evidence, he buried it, because if that study went public, it would prove that Full Metal Jacket was not a movie about dehumanization. It was an actual act of dehumanization captured on film. Full Metal Jacket endures not because it accurately depicts the Vietnam War, though it does, not because it features brilliant performances, though it does. It endures because Stanley Kubrick turned a film production into a psychological experiment where the subjects were his actors, his crew, and ultimately his audience. Those young men who thought they were making a war movie discovered they were being subjected to systematic dehumanization.